Good morning. It is Saturday, October 31st. I'm Ali Velshi. Happy Halloween. And indeed, we are living in frightening times. But with just 3 days until Election Day, here's a sign of hope. Already more than 87.5 million votes have been cast in what is without question the most important election of our lifetimes, presenting a clear choice for the future path of America. Democracy of the people, by the people, and for the people, or Trumpian authoritarianism, power for the very few. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and their teams continue to canvass across the country, stopping in important swing and battleground states, including Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Texas, which, believe it or not, appears to be in play, and also appears to already surpass the state's 2016 voting total, all with just early votes. Tomorrow, I'll be live in Philadelphia for the final stop on our special Sunday series, Velshi Across America. Joe Biden's also going to be in Philadelphia tomorrow, while Donald Trump is holding not one, not two or three, but 4 events today in Pennsylvania. As you can tell, Pennsylvania is gearing up to be one of the most influential states this election. There are, of course, many avenues for both Biden and Trump to win, to get 270 electoral votes, but it's much harder for Trump if he doesn't win here in Pennsylvania. Already, the shenanigans are starting. NBC News has learned that at least 7 of Pennsylvania's 67 counties, all 7 of which went for Trump in 2016, plan on delaying the counting of mail-in ballots until the day after Election Day, affecting nearly 150,000 votes in a state that Trump won in 2016 by just 44,000 votes. It's easy to see what's going on here, all but confirming a potential tipping point state is going to have delayed results, which presents a myriad of worst-case scenarios. As the New York Times succinctly put it, quote, facing gap in Pennsylvania, Trump camp tries to make voting harder, because it's the only way he can win. If the American people don't vote, or if their votes aren't counted, and nobody appears to know that more than Republicans and Donald Trump himself. It's just one instance of many that are right out in the open of Donald Trump and his family exploiting this extremely deadly pandemic. In this case, suppressing a safe way of voting, by mail, absentee, for Trump's re-election, in a move that would be laughable if it weren't so sad and pathetic and offensive. The White House Office of Science and Technology lists in an official statement of what it claims are the Trump administration's accomplishments from the first term, quote, ending the COVID-19 pandemic. From the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the administration has taken decisive actions to engage scientists and health professionals in academia, industry, and government to understand, treat, and defeat the disease. The Trump administration has literally done none of those things. And of course, the pandemic is far from over. More than 230,000 Americans are now dead. Nearly 1,000 Americans dying every day. Hospitals and ICUs either at or near capacity in several states. New cases continuing to set records on a daily basis with an astonishing 98,583 new cases reported on Friday alone. The second day in a row that there were more than 90,000 new COVID-19 cases in America. Faced with his own failure, an ever more desperate and deranged Trump is now scraping beyond the bottom of the barrel.
We will deliver a safe vaccine to the American people in just a number of weeks, a couple of weeks. It's happening very fast. Great companies. By the way, you know, without it, we're still rounding the corner. We have it. But without it, we round the corner. You know, our doctors get more money if somebody dies from COVID. You know that, right? I mean, our doctors are very smart people. With us, when in doubt, choose COVID. It's true. No, it's true. Now, they'll say, oh, it's terrible what he said. But that's true. It's like $2,000 more. So you get more money. This could only happen to us.
That's the current president of the United States, who's up for re-election in 3 days, blaming doctors for the high death count of Americans on his own watch. Donald Trump, who's exploited the presidency for his own personal financial gain, says that the doctors working the front line at great risk to their own lives to save their fellow citizens during this pandemic are in the COVID game for the money. Here's Joe Biden.
Dr. Fauci, who's been not treated very well by the president, who's been with 3 other presidents in the same role, one of the most respected guys in the world. He's called for a mask mandate. This isn't a political statement of us wearing these masks. For God's sake, it's a patriotic duty. The reason you're wearing the mask is not to save yourself, but to save your neighbor, the person across from you. But still, Donald Trump refuses to listen to the science. He's politicized the race for vaccine as well. As I said before, I'm not going to shut down the economy. I'm going to shut down the virus.
Meanwhile, Trump says he wants to hold an election night event at the White House. NBC News has learned that plans have actually been underway since Trump last held a political event there, his GOP acceptance speech, continuing his trend of fleecing the American taxpayer. It comes as there are increased fears about what may transpire post-election day, with Trump continuing to imply that he may not accept the results of the election while whipping his supporters into a frenzy, falsely saying that the only way he can lose is if there is massive voter fraud, something which doesn't exist, yet his supporters now fully believe it does. In his ever-growing quest to prove that there is mass voter fraud, which again there isn't, Trump has called on his supporters to become unofficial and potentially illegal poll watchers. And already there are reports of multiple disturbances between voters and Trump's sycophantic goons who are intimidating those voters. That's the future for America if Donald Trump is reelected. It's simple. We all have a choice, and in 3 days or sometime after that, we will learn the fate of the future of this democracy. Joining me now is New York Attorney General Letitia James. On Thursday, she told NBC News that she is reviewing legal options in case Trump contests the election results, which seems increasingly likely, and also developing a long list of actions taken by Trump that she would like Joe Biden to undo should he become the President of the United States. Attorney General James, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. I want to remind our viewers, I don't know how much you can tell me about this, but you were elected in part on a promise of going after Donald Trump's illegality, much of which played out in the state of New York with respect to his businesses and money that the New York Times has been talking about that wasn't properly declared or wasn't presented honestly. What's your plan for Donald Trump if he loses the election?
So first, Ali, thank you for having me this morning. And let me just remind individuals that it's really critical, important that they vote, and that there's no right more sacred and more cherished than the right to vote in a free society. And it's important that every voice be heard in our democracy. And so I urge everyone to go out and vote or engage in early voting. In New York, tomorrow is our last day for early voting, but please, please go out and vote. In New York, we've had an election protection, a team that is protecting the right of all individuals to exercise their right to vote. And we are anticipating all options, legal and otherwise, during this election season and in its aftermath. And hopefully this president of the United States will engage in a peaceful transition of power in the event that he loses. But we are preparing in New York and across this nation with other attorney generals options in the event that there is unrest in our country.
And all sorts of people, have put forward the idea that Donald Trump has greater interest in winning this election than most presidents who are up for re-election because it acts as something of a shield against legal action taken against him or criminal action taken against him. What happens to Donald Trump if he does finally concede this election and he is private citizen Donald Trump as it relates to you as the Attorney General of New York?
Well, in New York, as you know, we have an investigation against the Trump Organization related to financial impropriety. That investigation is ongoing. We will continue that investigation. And at this point in time, there's nothing more that I can say other than the fact that they have used every legal attempt to block and to deny us access to information and to witnesses. We filed motion to compel. We were successful in our motion to compel. And we will continue with our investigation. We had the opportunity to question Eric Trump. And we are continuing to review all of the documents that they have submitted and other witnesses as well. We look forward to questioning them also.
And to be clear, without telling me any details about the investigation, you are not subject to any other types of rules. There is no immunity that someone can present the president with that limits your ability to pursue these investigations and put whatever charges forward you see fit. As the Attorney General of New York, you're not governed by the Department of Justice or any federal rules.
In response to our motion to compel, they raised a number of defenses, including certain immunities, but they were, again, all denied by the federal court judge, and our motion to compel was successful. And again, we had the opportunity to interview and ask questions to Eric Trump, and we were able to secure certain documents that we are reviewing. Our investigation is ongoing, and despite the fact that during my campaign, I didn't mention that, in fact, I would be reviewing the conduct and the actions of President Trump. those were just comments. The reality is that as the Attorney General, I am guided by the law and the facts. My political affiliation and my political thoughts and my personal views are left at the door. It is based again on the law and the review of and the facts. And quite honestly, it was the testimony of Mr. Cohen, Mr. Trump's own attorney, that laid bare some of these alleged financial improprieties. And because most of his properties are in the state of New York, it is my responsibility, my duty, given our jurisdiction, to engage in an investigation with respect to those wrongdoings.
I want to take you back to the beginning when you talked about the protections that are in place in New York for voters. It's not the same all over the country, and I wonder whether you have been dealing with others, attorneys general on this. An article from the Washington Post says that in Florida, mail ballots from black and Hispanic voters are being flagged for problems at 2 times the rate of ballots from white voters. Younger people are being flagged at 4 times the rate of older voters, 65 and older. So in addition to this general complaint about mass voter fraud that Donald Trump has, it actually seems that Republicans are taking a different approach here. They're going after individual votes in an attempt to reduce Democratic voters.
They're focusing on communities of color and young individuals in particular. And working with my colleagues all across this country, we are working with organizations on the ground, civic organizations on the ground, to protect, again, that cherished liberty, the most cherished liberty, and that is the right to vote. It's unfortunate that this administration, this president of the United States, would undermine and suppress that basic right. But we are here to defend that basic right. And we will guarantee that we are seeking to assure that all votes are counted, not only in New York, but all across this country. It is unfortunate, it's regrettable that this president and his army of attorneys are challenging those votes and making it more difficult for people of color and young people to vote. But it's important that everyone go out and vote during this early voting season. Drop off your ballots at the Board of Elections, your respective Board of Elections. If you have drop-off boxes, please do not mail them at this moment. And on Election Day, I urge everyone to stand in line in quiet dignity and in defiance to what this president and his administration is doing, because it's adverse to our values and to who we are as Americans. It's important that we count every vote. It's important that no court decide this election, that the American people decide this election. And as the Attorney General of the state of New York, I will assure that all votes in New York are counted, and will join with my colleagues, particularly in those battleground states, so that the same thing happens in those states as well.
Stand in line in quiet dignity and defiance. That is the slogan you need to keep in mind for the next few days for those of you who have not voted and will be voting on Election Day or today or tomorrow. Letitia James is the Attorney General of New York. Thank you again for your time, Attorney General.
Thank you, Ali.
Turning now to Wisconsin, one of the states that Donald Trump flipped in 2016, albeit by a razor-thin margin. Right now, Biden is polling ahead, with the latest ABC News Washington Post poll survey showing Biden up 17 points, significantly outside the margin of error. So far, more than 1.6 million votes have already been cast in Wisconsin, roughly half of the state's entire turnout for 2016. Joining me now is the Democratic Congresswoman Gwen Moore of Wisconsin. She, along with others, helped introduce Joe Biden at a campaign event in Milwaukee yesterday. Congressman Moore, good to see you again. Thank you for being with us. What's the outlook for the next few days in Wisconsin, as far as you can see?
Hey, Allie, we are voting in dignity and defiance. I'm loving it. Oh, I'm having such a good time watching your guests today, Letitia James, Joyce Vance, powerful women here. And, you know, what we have, you know, we were very disappointed, of course, in 2016 when we saw the vote drop in Milwaukee, in some areas by as much as 43%. But we're on track now for having maybe a 70% turnout. Our early vote that we have, right, we've got a couple 100,000 votes banked already through early voting here in the city of Milwaukee, through early voting and absentee ballots that have been returned. And of course, we only had 250,000 votes in the city of Milwaukee in 2016. And already we have 200,000 votes banked with today and tomorrow left for early vote, and of course, the same day voting.
Let me ask you about safety and security in voting. We've got tension around the country. We've got a lot of cities who are planning for tension. We've got the National Guard with plans, and you are in a state that has seen some violence over the last several months. How do you process how that may go down on election night and the days following?
Well, Alec, thank God we don't have open carry laws that would permit that kind of intimidation. But we are not naive about the prospect of voter intimidation. I think our state attorney general made it very, very clear early on that we would not tolerate voter intimidation. But as an antidote to that, and bringing a bright spot on this, we've got all kinds of activities planned, and we're executing. We have the Divine Nine, the fraternities and sororities doing stroll to the polls with their stepping. We have sign twirlers. We're going to have people with sandwich cardboard. We're, ordering pizza to keep people in line if necessary. We are planning some affirmative, in your face, on the street. I know I have a sound truck to go through those wards where the turnout is not as good as we expect it to be. So we're going to mix old school campaigning with the new school technology, because we know where those outstanding ballots are. We know who has not voted in person. And you talk about a battlefield. This is a battle for the soul of the nation, and it's happening right here in Wisconsin. And we are relying on our right to vote and law enforcement to protect our voters, and we're going to protect each other. We're going to vote in dignity and defiance.
Mm-hmm. Gwen Moore, it is always a pleasure to talk to you, even though you and I have talked in many cases over the last several months about things that haven't been enjoyable. But you are making this exercise of voting, for anybody who hasn't done it yet. It almost makes it feel good for those of you who haven't done it yet, because you get to take Gwen Moore's words and Letitia James's words and Joyce Vance's words and carry that to the polls with you and do your civic duty. Thank you, Congresswoman Gwen Moore of Wisconsin. We appreciate
Vote.
you.
It's a power thing.
That's right. We do have some sad news this morning. Legendary actor Sir Sean Connery has died. That's according to the official James Bond Twitter account. Starring in dozens of blockbuster films, Connery is best known for his role as the aforementioned super spy in the 007 franchise. He's also played seminal roles in other classics like The Hunt for Red October, Indiana Jones, and The Last Crusade, as well as The Untouchables, for which he won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Connery's career spanned more than 5 decades, and he just celebrated his 90th birthday back in August. NBC's Kelly Cobiella takes a look at his life and legacy.
Sean Connery was the first, and for legions of fans, the best.